From Informa Tech Target, I'm David Essex, and this is Enterprise Apps Unpacked. Few companies have adopted AI as seriously as EY, sometimes known as Ernst & Young, one of the Big Four accounting firms with a significant business in IT consulting. When generative AI took off nearly 4 years ago, EY launched a massive effort to train its 400,000 employees to use AI, an effort we covered in depth in a previous podcast. When the second big wave of the AI revolution, agentic AI, came along, EY found itself with new challenges. Having determined the technology was crucial to its ambitious growth plans, the company realized that the many co-pilots, models, and workflows under development were becoming fragmented, and the AI agent's autonomy called for more governance, interoperability, and data management. And this had to be done not just inside EY, but across its client and partner ecosystems. Not to mention, those same 400,000 employees now had to learn how to work alongside AI agents. The solution was for EY to work with Nvidia and Microsoft to develop a single agentic AI platform, an operating system of sorts. That meant building new orchestration, data, workflow, and governance systems on top of the original Gen AI foundation. Today's guest, Julie Teaglin, EY's Global Vice Chair of Alliances and Ecosystems, shares how the company's challenges with AI led to this strategy and how others can benefit. She likens this AI operating system to a wedding cake that has layers. We talk about its major components, what it does, how people use it, and the business benefits. Finally, Julie explains why this strategy is suitable even for small to medium-sized businesses and shares the biggest lessons EY learned along the way. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Enterprise Apps Unpacked for the real story on the software that runs your business. Julie, thanks very much for coming on the podcast today.
Super excited to be with you.
So EY has been on a major journey with AI over the past several years. There's been a massive training effort, but also you've been rolling out products and services to help clients with their own AI transformations. And at some point in your journey, I guess it became clear that you needed to have a unified strategy and platform, an AI operating system in a way. Can you describe some of the fragmentation and other issues, maybe data readiness, that you were seeing in EY's AI initiatives that prompted this realization that you needed a unified platform?
Yeah, I think you've really outlined kind of exactly what we see. We saw some of the challenges that, frankly, many of our clients see. Effectively, we had some really valuable AI capabilities or data assets and use cases coming across the organization. But to be honest, they weren't connected. Lots of different teams were experimenting with different models. We had data across multiple systems, and governance approaches were kind of evolving. And scaling that became increasingly complex. It's like pockets of goodness everywhere, but not connected. And at the same time, what we saw was lots of individual pilots. In fact, some of the research that we did with Oxford Economics kind of confirmed what we were seeing internally, equally externally, with us being kind of stuck in AI pilot mode and really struggling to move enterprise-wide. David, I'd almost say we were kind of almost a victim of our own success, that lots of good flowers blooming, but to create a bouquet, we really required a platform to help us scale, to help us bring it together, to really make sure that that foundational training that we rolled out for our people actually anchored somewhere and was able to be put to a great use together. So we kind of set for objectives almost to create this platform, a common foundation that was going to support AI across the enterprise and move away from one-off implementations. We really wanted to make the data AI ready and accessible and almost trusted at scale. We said we wanted governance, and one form of governance across that was security and accountability. And then lastly, while we still want to see innovation, we want to move from isolated use cases to much more enterprise-wide value creation. And that's kind of why we tried to develop, or why we did develop the platform approach, as opposed to moving away from 1,000 flowers bloom.
Hmm. So you did this with major partners, including Microsoft and Nvidia, and I don't know, maybe there were others. And you worked with them to engineer a single agentic platform to unify the intelligence, the orchestration, which is a big thing with agentic, as we know, and then data and governance. So, what were the main responsibilities of the different partners in this?
Yeah, so at EY, we have more than 100 alliance partners globally that work in every part of our AI stack, right? There's cloud, there's models, data, governance, security, and don't forget industry solutions. If I go through the partners, Microsoft for us has been a foundational partner. It's been really helping us scale AI throughout our enterprise. In fact, I know that EY was selected as the only Big Four firm in their Frontier Firm Initiative as a result of the work that we're doing together. But NVIDIA also played a critical role in agentic AI and AI innovation across the enterprise. So much so that they named EY the 2026 Tech Innovation Partner of the Year, which really reflects the depth of our collaboration. Our role has been to try to bring all of these ecosystem partners together. We believe that the technology comes from the ecosystem, but the enterprise value comes from orchestrating that ecosystem and pulling it all together. And so every one of our partners has played a big role in that.
Can you describe the major components of the platform and what those components, or at least the entire platform, is designed to do?
Yeah, our platform is built almost like a wedding cake. And that's how I like to think of it. It's got 3 layers. The first layer is a unified intelligence layer. That's a centralized model catalog. That tunes and distills the pipelines, the guardrails, the multi-model intelligence, and the planning frameworks. The second layer is a unified orchestration and workflow layer. This kind of runs end-to-end workflows across our tools, across our surface agents, and directly into the everyday environments where people work. That means email, documents, meetings, and it handles lifecycle management, security, and that multi-agent coordination that you need. And the last layer, I'm going to say it's the foundational layer. It's probably the most important layer in any wedding cake. It's the bottom layer. The third, it's a unified data and trust foundation layer. That's where we have what we call AI ready data. And agentic systems are only as good as that data, which this layer then provides effectively the governance, the permissions, the lineage rich data that's tied together across our internal systems. So it decides who can see the data, what data can they see, and when can they see it across our client systems and our cloud ecosystem. So 3 layers really coming together, data being that foundational layer, the orchestration and workflow layer sitting in the middle, and then the top, the intelligence layer, which is kind of the model catalog that sits on top. And together that's generating this agentic operating system. The importance of all 3 of those layers, AI really only scales when all 3 comes together, intelligence, data, and governance that work together to be able to scale.
Hmm. So I understand from my reading that EY Fabric is somehow part of this. What is Fabric exactly, and what is its role in this agentic AI platform?
Yeah, so EY Fabric is important because EY Fabric really pulls together in a unified format all of the data that EY generates, working through 130,000 of our assurance professionals or 160,000 of our tax professionals. That data comes together and creates a fabric that helps us leverage that data across the organization with a trusted governance sitting around that.
See. So who gets to use the platform, and what do they use it for? There's a nicely detailed case study that you post on the website, which I'll share with the listeners on our landing pages. But it seems to mostly position the platform as one designed to help EY associates deliver your services to clients more effectively. Is that the primary user base and the primary purpose?
I would say that's the primary purpose, the first purpose. We built it for ourselves. We wanted to be our own client zero. David, I don't think we can walk the halls and not drink our own champagne. So we wanted to live through and have lived through the same challenges that our clients are facing. Today, 80% of our EY professionals are using our EYQ. The platform supports us across consulting. I mentioned just a few minutes ago, assurance and tax, strategy and transactions in our managed services. It helps them really work differently, collaborate, and drive value. But it was never just a productivity initiative. It was really a blueprint for how we help clients build their own AI-enabled enterprise. It was a way to build it, test it, transform it, and make sure that it's working before we start talking that way to clients. And in just 9 months, we've been able to really drive experimentation and development of more than 50,000 agents internally. That track record helps us be externally credible as well. It's not just what we're doing on the inside for us, but what we're doing also for our clients. So the platform has made a huge difference.
You've kind of touched on these already, but what are some of the other benefits, especially from a business point of view? I'm sure there's a lot of technical ones, and those would be interesting to hear too. But sort of like value add type of business benefits that the platform delivers to you, and maybe also to its clients and other entities such as your partners.
Yeah, I would say some of the biggest business benefits have been making sure, honestly, the focus and drive around making sure that we've got the trusted AI data level ready and with governance around those permissions, what can be done and not done. I think that's foundational for any enterprise, making sure that we're investing the time in doing that. Lessons number one. Lesson number two has been, in our experience, it's not a technology question. It's a human interaction question. It's a leadership issue to really roll out and adopt this. Even as we built the platform, it was imperative that we invest the time in training our people and driving change management, how they work to leverage the platform. And we see that it's not just about getting the layers right, the technology right. It's about making sure that you're driving the organization to leverage it, to use it, to adopt it, and to be part of it and take people with them. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. There's still a lot of fear out there on what AI is going to do going forward. And I think giving the platform has allowed people to see it's actually a tool. It augments what we do. It's not taking anyone's position. It's helping support. It's helping us focus on the more judgmental areas, the more creative areas. And it takes somebody told me recently, some of the soul crushing work away. This has been imperative. But I do want to make sure that I emphasize we have to be ambidextrous. That means laying the foundation around trust and governance is imperative. And that's built around the technology. It's built with the technology by design. It's not something you sprinkle on the top later. And then addressing that leadership challenge has been probably the biggest learning around the investment in training and taking people with us.
I see. So how are clients using it? And if they are, can you give an example or two, even if you can't name who they are?
I think clients are, well, first of all, we're using it internally on clients, but I think if I looked at a few examples without mentioning any names, I know one client's bringing it to life by how they're looking at the platform they've built across AI-infused SAP and S/4HANA transformation that's really empowered people and really driven toward changing their customer experience. They've used a platform-like approach to really streamline operations to drive growth. And that shift has been exactly where I was talking about. That shift has been leveraging the enterprise data and enhancing collaboration across by having one single data source with multiple permission elements on there, but giving real-time capabilities like mobile-first ordering or inventory and shipment visibility and streamlined service processes that sit across that platform. Now, that platform was an SAP AI-infused platform, but it was similar in nature in terms of having all of the foundational elements of what I just spoke about, that wedding cake built for that organization so that they could focus on the customer first approach and uniting the teams. A second one I would say has been a platform that we built with a shipbuilding company. It's one of the largest shipbuilding companies in the world, and they really wanted to get more collaboration from AI. between human robots and human workers. So they used the platform to connect human work with humanoid work that was doing manufacturing. And so that work was actually around painting and welding. And so we built a platform that helped them connect again, real time data to leverage what was going on, when it was going on, and how you connect those elements to make sure that some of the riskier elements of that welding could be done by the humanoid while the human was directing it, making sure that they're overseeing, applying the judgment, and doing quality assurance. So that's been a great collaboration and a similar type of platform-like approach, this one built with Nvidia to help drive that element of physical and AI work together.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like my next question maybe has been already answered, but because you mentioned that they did a platform approach. So thinking of what we've been talking about that EY did and why you did it, is that the kind of platform strategy that you can help clients do for themselves? So do something roughly on the scale, even if they're a somewhat smaller company, that EY did. Or is it not really a model that other companies, especially like, let's say SMBs, can try to use themselves?
No, I think SMBs need the same type of model, the same layer wedding cake approach in terms of getting their data right, making sure that they've got that governance baked in. I think they need all of those layers. At the end, I think that's what's going to prove the success. And I think those models are going to be scalable. Yes, EY has 400,000 people, so our model is larger. But I'm going to tell you that shipbuilding company is a smaller company. It's an SMB that was looking at how they weave human and AI adoption together. So to get the scale, you need to go back to the elements of the wedding cake. And those elements include making sure that you're getting your data right, make sure that you've got trust and governance built in. And I think that's really been the learning that we've had, right? Data beats all the models. That's going to be foundational for everyone, whether you're big or small. You've got to have trust and drive that leadership change to get adoption. And then the value is going to be making sure that you're collaborating and connecting things. One of the things that we've learned is that the value exists between the silos. It's eliminating the silos and using AI to do that. And in both of my examples, whether it was the customer focused example, the client that was really focused on driving customer value, they were really focused on driving collaboration and a seamless customer experience across all of their different functions. Look at the shipbuilding example, it was driving collaboration between human, the supervisor, and actually a robot that was doing welding and painting. And so in both cases, that's where the value existed. And I think that value applies whether you're a multinational company or an SMB. If you focus on the layers in that wedding cake and getting that right, that intelligence layer, that orchestration and workflow, and then lastly, most importantly, the data, you're going to be able to scale AI across the enterprise, no matter how big you are.
Mm-hmm. So with the big companies like EY, big consultancies, I know that you often will, you develop things, actual, I think, applications or let's say tools, that can then, you try them in-house, drink your own champagne, as you say, and then it's part of your offering in addition to advisory consulting. Can you talk a little bit about what some of those things might be, either products or advice that are, that are helping your clients to do this kind of platform strategy?
Well, we do quite a bit in terms of really helping. I'll give some examples. I talked about the 3-layer cake. If I look at that data, we've built an awful lot of tools on a few of our alliance partners in the data space, whether that's Databricks or Snowflake. We've built tools that help our clients go faster in organizing their data dependent on their sector. They're mini accelerators. We've built tools, for example, to help us take a lot of the effort out of an enterprise transformation around an ERP system that help our clients go faster. We've built products that are sitting almost like a managed service that once you're docked into a system, we can help take care of your compliance work, your finance work, help agenticize your controlling function because we've built tools and accelerators that clients can leverage. Now, that doesn't mean that the client doesn't need to focus on getting the data right. That's why some of those accelerators. It doesn't mean that they don't need to focus on their workflow and developing a governance system, but we have some accelerators that we can dock onto here to make sure that clients can go faster as they're building their wedding cake, and make sure that they're agenticizing throughout their organization. Depending on the function they want to look at, I talked about the customer function. I talked a little bit about the production function. You could take the finance function, where we have products and services that will help you go faster as you're agenticizing some of your workflows. And that's what I think the value that EY can bring is, not only that we know how to do that, we've drunk our own champagne, but that we hopefully can take a lot of the burden away, that we've already been there. Some of those lessons we've codified so that we can give that on to our clients.
Mm-hmm. I see. So I assume there were a lot of lessons learned about deploying agentic AI, effectively using AI in general, including generative, but that EY learned from experience. But if you had to name 2 or 3 of the biggest lessons, especially for this process, this big kind of ambitious process for companies to try to create like an agentic AI operating system or unified platform, what are 2 or 3 of the biggest lessons you feel like they need to know?
So I would say the first lesson, I would say everyone in the business is talking about models. Oh my God, I hear it every day about which model you're using. I don't think the models are that important. I think data beats models any day of the week. AI-ready data is the biggest determinant of success. And the more focus you can put on that data, the better off you're going to be. A lot of people are talking data is the new oil or the new gold, and I can only underline that. How you control the data, how you access the data, how you make it available, that's going to be your critical success factor. So that's one. Don't underestimate the power of those 4 little letters of DATA. That's really critical. And the second one, you're probably not going to be surprised because I spoke about the leadership challenge before. I have to tell you that I really think that trust accelerates adoption. We can call it change management. It's change management, but it's more than that. I think the ones that are really going fast have real governance around it. They're embedding trust from the beginning. They're transparently taking their employees with them. And it doesn't matter if you've got 50 employees or 500,000 employees. Getting them to be part of this journey is going to be critical. Helping them understand how it's benefiting both the company, but also enriching their own career and their own career potential is really important. So don't forget the trust as you're baking this in. It's not something that you can do afterwards and sprinkle on top. You've got to embed it from the very beginning. And so I think that's critical. I think that's critical from an employee side, but it's equally critical from a customer side. And I think we should ensure that that's part of the KPIs as you embark on this journey, however ambitious that is.
Well, that's a good note to end it on, Julie. I appreciate your coming on the podcast today.
And it was a real honor to be with you. I'm super glad that I could take part.
Thank you for listening to Enterprise Apps Unpacked, where we give the real story on the software that runs your business. To learn more about business applications, explore our content on searcherp.com. Find us on YouTube at our channel, Eye on Tech. Subscribe to our podcast to receive the latest episodes as they drop. And if you liked what you heard today, give us a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Until next time.
Podcast programming and promotion by Kelsey Waddell. Podcast production and quality oversight by Anne Steshu. Music supplied by DP via Getty Images. This is an Informa Tech Target production.